Karson and Kennedy talk to famous people. Sponsored by Arbella Insurance. Here for New England, here for good. Mix 1041.
New album, Dancing with the Devil, The Art of Starting Over. Can't think of a better title ever. And I have so many things I'd like to discuss today. I feel like we need to start back in July of 2018 because I feel like this is where this started. I wasn't here without that. And that was the day that you overdosed and woke up in the hospital. And I would just like to talk very briefly about what that was like, sort of when you woke up and then your next steps that you took, because it didn't happen overnight that you were better. We had to do some steps in between. So maybe not from here to there, but just in that moment, in your space, what was that like for you?
Well, first of all, I woke up that day in the hospital not knowing where I was or what had happened. And so it was quite a shock to me when I realized what had happened and where I was. I realized, oh, well, I guess I do have a problem. I really didn't think that I had a problem at that point. And I also didn't know that I could end up in the hospital with the way that I was using the drug that I was using. And so it was just a big shock. And after having that initial shock wear off, just sitting in the hospital, I had brain damage from the strokes that I had. So I was legally blind in the hospital. And so I couldn't do anything. I only had time to sit there and think. And so for 10 days, I sat in the hospital room and I thought about, what am I going to do? What do I do from here? Am I ever going to sing again? Do I ever want to sing again? Because if this is where I ended up, maybe I'm not the happiest when I'm on stage and performing and doing all of this. I quickly realized that my life without music is so sad. And so I never want to have that thought again. But I am open to the fluidity of deciding what I need when I need it, like I'm not going to, I don't know. So I am going off on a tangent a little bit, but yeah, I decided from that moment that I needed to get help. And so I went and I got help. I got some help, and I had been in treatment for pretty much a substantial amount of August, September, October, and so I was getting help for quite some time, and then continued the aftercare, obviously, and I still do aftercare stuff. So
it's not a sprint, and it doesn't have a finish line. We have
of course
to do the work. So
yeah.
Well, so as you say that you realized that your life without music was not going to be okay. So when did you start writing the songs for this record? Or did they all come out afterwards? Did they all come out in one big butt? Or what's your process?
My process was, I got back into the studio in November of 2018. I had started writing on lyrics and like poetry in my phone. But I hadn't played instruments in a while. And so I needed help collaborating on either making tracks or whatever. So I started writing that November, and it was really therapeutic for me. I realized that I wrote Dancing with the Devil in November or December of 2018.
Wow.
And I've been sitting on that song ever since, because I've been waiting for the right time to share my story. And now that all the facts are out there, and they're coming from me, so that it's the most accurate source. It's been very therapeutic and very healing for me.
I love it. You are with two super powerhouses here in your new album, with Ariana Grande and with Saweetie. How's it like to just give Ariana a call and just be like, hey girl, I was gonna do this? And I think you would do harmonies so great with me. Like, I'm here and you're here. Like
You know, what's funny is we weren't in the studio when we worked together. I didn't do one collaboration face to face with
Yeah,
any.
it's been the time, hasn't it?
Yeah, because of COVID, really. You know, this whole album was done pretty much, most of it was done in COVID, with the exception of like just a handful of songs that were either recorded before or some of them were written and just not recorded until, you know, COVID. So that was interesting too. So there was yeah, yeah, it's been interesting. But that song came about because I had played her Dancing with the Devil back in August 2018. And she had heard the direction. She obviously knew my story. We're good friends. And so she knew what had happened. And she started writing this song called Met Him Last Night. And she immediately thought of me and the story I'd shared with her, the song that I had played her. And she was like, you have to record this. Like, you would sound so great on this. And I wrote this for you. And I was like, oh my gosh, thank you. Like, that's, yeah, exactly. I was like, wow, that's amazing. Thank you. And when I heard it, I was like, but you got to stay on it. Like, you sound so good on it too, that like, and she was like, are you sure? And I was like, yes, absolutely. And she crushed it. She absolutely crushed it. And, you know, it's like, that's the kind of women supporting women that we need. And
queens should always be helping queens.
Yes, you know, you're sweet. But it's true. It's like I love that she is the biggest pop star in the world because she deserves it. You know, she's wanting to help and support other women. Like that's incredible. So it's I'm excited to be able to call her a friend and have her on this album, and I can't wait to sing it with her in person.
And the song my girlfriends are my boyfriend, I was listening to it this morning with the gal that's on our show. Her name is Annie, and she's half my age. And we listened to it. She goes, "That's us, Boo. That's us."
Oh, cute.
So thanks for that.
Yeah, of course. Hopefully that'll be the single lady anthem.
Yes, I think so. And you're working on, well, the video is about to drop for Dancing with the Devil, and you decided to sort of reenact that evening, which I think is brave, because sometimes going back to those traumas can be a little triggery, I think.
Yeah,
you know,
definitely.
It's going to be this real like, oh, it's a catharsis, and then you're like, no, it wasn't. So what was it like?
You know, it actually was really cathartic for me. And I'm glad, I'm really relieved and grateful that I had that experience, because I'm not going to lie, when I stepped on set that day, I was like, what am I doing? Like, is this that smart? But yes, it was, because I knew exactly what I needed. I knew how I wanted to share this story. And I wanted to give it just a slight artistic approach to telling the story, as opposed to the documentary, which was very, very literal and fact-based.
Yes.
So being able to, you know, the disco ball in the hospital room, obviously that was not there. So it's like little things like that I felt like was able to connect the song and put it in more of a artistic approach.
Yeah.
And I'm really, really excited with how it turned out. But definitely walking onto the set was difficult. And I remember I told Ratty, the director of my documentary, and we collaborated on this video together. When I told him, I was like, hey, I might cry and one of the takes, like, just roll. Just like, if I look at you and say like, we need to go, just go for it. And so I gave him that look and was like, we need to go. And he shut it down really quickly. It was like, all right, everybody off set, like, let's shoot. And after I finished that take, I started to get a bit of a migraine because I cried so hard, but it was so therapeutic that I literally felt like I lost 100 pounds of shame that I didn't know had stuck with me. in that incident. But it did, and it was healing for me to walk through it.
Well, that makes me happy.
Thank you.
That was a good thing. And I think one of the other, I feel a really cathartic moment, and well, it was for me anyway, was the 2020 Grammys performance.
Thank you.
I had heard the song just a couple of days before, and it hit me in a place because I have stood in the middle of my apartment screaming, "Will, at the top of my lungs, will anyone help me?" Literally those words. So when you got up to sing and you had your moment, a little hiccup, and I was sitting in my living room and I literally was like, "Is it too soon? Is it too soon?" And then I was like, "No, she's got it." And I go, "Demi, you got it," up to the TV. And I know that the universe was also saying, "Demi, you got it." And then we held you up for about 30 seconds, and then you didn't need us anymore. And then you were 8 foot tall and singing this amazing song, bare naked on the stage. And when it was over, I felt, this breath of the people. And I can only imagine that at some point, some people were like, "Oh, I get it." And that was the moment that just got me in a place. So I'd love to know if you remember when you walked off the stage when you were done and you got to sit down. What was that like, knowing you had come back and kicked its ass?
Thank you.
And done all that.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I remember like seeing people start to stand after the performance, the standing ovation, and that was so cool. Like that's something you just always hope for if you ever perform at the Grammys, to get a standing ovation. So it was really surreal, and just like also just the amount of like all that I had been through to get to that point was super full circle and meaningful. And it was beautiful. It was a beautiful experience. And I do remember walking back to my dressing room, and once I got back to my dressing room, I just like celebrated a little bit. Like my mom was there and my sisters, and just like hugging them and talking to my team, and then being like, "All right, now it's time for In and Out and my sweatpants.
Let's go."
And I like called my friends, was like, "Hey, I'm on my way home. Like, put your sweatpants on. Let's watch TV and eat In and Out." And like, that was the best after party. But I was so content, like I was so happy. It took a lot to get to that moment. It took a lot to overcome the fear of stepping on that stage for the first time in so long. And then to know that I was pleased with the performance was really relieving.
I've practiced that question for a week now, and this is the
you're so sweet.
only time I didn't cry. So I'm out of time.
Oh.
I just want to thank you for being such a warrior for mental health, for being such a loud voice, because there just aren't enough of us to go around. So continue to do the good work and stand in the light and shine it on others and show them how much their light is needed too. And I thank you, and I wish you nothing but all of the best. And
thank you too, Kennedy. It's so nice to meet you. Thank you for all of your sweet words.
All right, go have a nice day.
Bye.